What's happening, everybody? I'm back. It's me, your resident supervillain, Mr. J. Washington, and I am here with my review for Season 3 of Invincible. Now, if you have not seen this yet, come on back, because there's going to be spoilers all the way through this. Thank you to everybody, as always, man, who's rocking with me. To everybody who got the alert the other day that we did Blurs in the Hood on this channel, as well as on the Blurs channel. Thank you for everybody who was tuning in over there, everybody who subsequently subscribed to the Blurs channel. And please know we're going to keep doing this as much as we possibly can, as much as myself and Winston's schedules allow. Things are really picking up and getting kind of, hectic in a good way. Life is lifing, but also careers are doing what they need to do. So listen, I have been a fan of Invincible. I, like many people, knew of the comics back in the day, read them at one point, had to get back into them when the show came out. Let me just do an overall what I thought of this season. I think this season did what it was supposed to do, and that was ramp up all the way to the end of the season. And I bring that up because a lot of people will say, well, I felt like it started real slow and then it got better. But that's kind of how the show has done. Each season premiere will have something big happen in it, but then it kind of it revs you up, gets you into it, then it comes down a bit, it throttles, and it goes, and it rev up, then it come back down, and rev up, and then right around episode 6 and 7, it starts to go up higher and higher, and that's kind of what we had happen in this season. I want to make sure I got my notes together, so if y'all see me over here, please forgive me. I don't want to be that type of jerk not really looking at the camera. But I think this season gave us a lot. I know if you were watching, first of all, if you watched me do the breakdowns in the break room on New Rockstars, and that's why you're here, first of all, thank you. But I was super amped about the arrival of Conquest. And you first saw him when Nolan was telling Mark about Viltrum in season 1, and the warning that Anissa gave him in season 2. You knew somebody else was coming because we've already met Krieg, who told Mark that at the time in season 2 that Nolan was set to be executed, but Conquest was going to be a thing. And I was talking about it on air. I was super excited because I knew what the fight with Conquest was going to be. Which also, let me get into this real quick. There have been a lot of people online. Now, I don't know if some of y'all want to be contrary for contrary's sake. A lot of people truly are contrarians, and they just want to, when they see a lot of people have happiness in something, they want to find something negative to be a part of it, and that's y'all. But the amount of people who kept trying to be like, man, the animation is blah, 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 blah. Why isn't it exactly like the comics? There are a lot of things you cannot do panel for panel when there are things that they have done panel for panel, which I'll admit was amazing. We know about, for instance, a lot of the fights he's had, Oliver's fights, the fight with Conquest, many different things we saw throughout the season, even up until the Invincible War, etc. There's certain things, people, that were panel for panel recreations, because again, with it being an animated series, you can do a lot. But there are certain things that are in steel cells in comic books that trying to fully animate them would either take an extremely long time. And I know some people are probably thinking, and I'm just going to call it for what it is, some people are probably thinking, well, what if they just use AI to handle that? And I want to say I'm grateful to any animator and animation company that is not taking that, route. This is how animators keep their jobs. But it would take a long time, and also the budgetary issues. And we don't know, we don't know sometimes how episodes are allotted to be budgeted out, et cetera, et cetera. But I bring that up because Angstrom Levy is back in this season, right? Now, we thought Angstrom Levy was, if you knew the comic books, you knew when you saw season 2, when you saw Mark bash his head in, you knew that wasn't the end of it. But for those who didn't know, when they saw Angstrom Levy back, his head was put back together and all these things, he had little metal pieces. And it didn't look like, there weren't a lot of scars, there wasn't a lot of damage, et cetera, as it is in the comic. Because in the panel, he's a grotesque monster. Now, he's put back together by these things called the technicians. Now, I know some people, even personally, who were like, man, they couldn't do this for this. And one of the animators actually had to comment on Twitter. I refuse to call it X. Twitter was like, hey, in order to have done that and get what y'all want, we would have to animate and make sure Every frame has every single little bitty line consistently moving nonstop every single time you see it. And that is just feasibly impossible. So they gave us the best iteration they could, and you still kept the story for that. I know people want to see this horrible, grotesque monster that is Angstrom when he's put back together by technicians. I understand and I respect that, but you have to also respect the animators and what they have to go through. And again, as someone who draws himself, as someone who knows when you're recreating a picture, you're looking at different details and you're trying to get those little fine lines and those fine things. And when it comes to animating, you got to remember, we're not just talking one picture. We're talking hundreds and sometimes thousands of that picture with just a slight detail. So when you take that into consideration, you got to give him a leeway, some grace. Angstrom being back is amazing. I'm glad we saw. I'm glad we got him back. Him creating the Invincible War, which for those who didn't know, that shit was going to be graphic, and it was. And that was the start of, I think, I wouldn't say that was the start. I would say the episode before with Powerplex was the start of it ramping up to its fully violence, what it was going, and gore, what it was going to get. Because a lot of people were like, oh, it's going to be violent, and this, that, and the third, and it may be violent all the way through. And it sounds weird to just hold the entire series to just the violence, but I think the action in the violence and the different things and the sequences we see are what a lot of us have come to love about this show. Even when you get scenes with Nolan and Alan in the Viltrumite prison, and I will give you guys a future spoiler real quick. Alan ain't about to be what you think he gonna be the whole time. Okay, some good shit gonna happen with Alan, but depending on how long this show goes, Alan gonna have some switch ups. All right, but the fights you saw with him, Alan, Nolan, and against the Viltrumites, and then when they bring back Battle Beast, all of these things, which if you know the stories again, this Battle Beast is a go. He got them paws. But Thrag gonna put them paws on his ass more than once and make his ass to a coat. But again, this is all in the comics. And that's one of the things, like I said, I really appreciate about this show is that it has kept the story for 98% of the way from the comics to here. And there is a story that's coming up that I'll talk about in a second. Seeing Nolan, deciding he wants to come back and help stop the Viltrumites, telling Alan, it's only 50 pure Viltrumites left, so we could potentially stop them. Seeing Mark, people who knew the comics, knowing Mark going into his blue suit era, him getting a new suit, we knew that this meant a lot. Again, we knew it meant the Viltrumite War, we knew it meant the Conquest era, things like that. Oliver growing up, becoming Kid Omni-Man, getting his suit, and having to learn how to be, how to control himself with his powers when he murders the Maulers, murders them early. All those different things. Also, one of the big things for me was Cecil Stedman and the Reanimen. Like, we know we're always going to get those. And a lot of people are like, man, I can't trust this motherfucker Cecil. And Cecil is your equivalent of Nick Fury, Amanda Waller, these people who will do whatever it takes to protect the country, and in Cecil's case, the world. And a lot of times we look at Cecil like, God damn, you a snake. But you also have to look at it like, he kind of has a good point. Like when Mark finds out that Cecil now has the sound effect to hurt him, everybody like, yo, that's bogus. But you're like, hey, if Cecil, again, outside of the comics, Cecil doesn't know for sure if Mark's not going to be like his father. So we saw his father come through and beat the dog piss out of him and try and destroy a lot of the planet, was to say he wouldn't get stopped. And so Cecil doing those things. And then to see his backstory too was rather interesting. Debbie getting a relationship was kind of dope. I think that was something we needed to see. A lot of people like, yeah, but she was missing Nolan. Yeah, but mama gotta have a life too. It's just, is mama gonna start getting some in the house with Oliver there? Is she just gonna be getting her back blown out in one of the real estate properties. Cause if I was Paul, like, hey, we got this house on the market. We didn't furnished it just for the showings. You want to come through and get it in on this IKEA bed that they put together? You know what I'm saying? It's sturdy. I think that Adam, the relationship with Adam, Eve, and Mark growing, and them realizing, yo, we're superheroes. There's gonna be times we want to be together, but we can't because duty calls. And to see when you get Amber bringing her new boyfriend, and Mark be like, oh shit, and she like, yo, just be cool, bro. Like, I'm good. I get it. You with her, I'm with him. It's not the same, but the life is different. And also, Amber, if you remember season 2, Amber she was cool with being with Invincible. She was fine with being with this nigga. She was like, you know what? I know you got to save the world and you going to drop out of college, but I still care. Until Anissa came up and was like, I'm going to rip this bitch head off her shoulder if you make a move. And she was like, I just felt it. That changes everything. But yeah, Eve, doing what she wants to do on her own, and then her and Mark, starting Invincible Inc. The Guardians going through the transitions they went through. We're getting introduced to, Kate comes back, Duplicate comes back, and you got the Immortal who've been through some shit. Y'all got to get Immortal. A lot of fans I see online, by the way, y'all got to give the Immortal a break, man. This man was Abe Lincoln. He has been through shit. Look, everybody like, hey, man, why the Immortal keep going? Hey, that man has been through a lot. He done been through a lot. What I really want to go is, talk about is like, again, I forgot to get in the Guardians, how Rudy does what he needs to do. Rudy, before he becomes Rex officially, helps Monster Girl to have the belt now where she can grow into a normal life. Because remember, he was just like, I don't want to help you. I'm just trying some shit. Because she was like, I don't need anybody to help me, because she felt she always had to deal with everything on her own. And to have them, still have this family bond, but also butt heads, where you got Rex and then him having his feelings for Shrinking Ray. Ray deciding now that she got better, like, I'm not doing this shit no more. Rex having his full arc happen throughout this season that led him to, which by the way, this is something I wanted to bring up, make sure. Him taking himself out during the Invincible War and using his skeleton as a weapon, and literally so similar to the way Gambit took himself out in X-Men 97. Now, I saw some people who sat there and said online, had the nerve to say that Invincible copied X-Men. Here's a thing I need for those who aren't familiar to understand. Number one, comics, there's a standing history. Number two, these shows were written years ago. Years ago. They were probably being written around the same time by different groups of writers in different rooms. But also, the character of Rex is kind of a amalgam of Gambit. And yes, it's, again, in the comics, it's going to happen. So don't be like everybody just copying off somebody. Look, animation takes a long time. They already said we're getting the next season of Invincible around February 2026. So we got a year to wait. But Rex's whole arc was a beautiful thing to see him finally grow up, if you will. And then in the last moment, him being grown and sacrificing himself. Angstrom Levy coming back and just tormenting Mark. Having the drones watch him. Mark thinking it's Cecil. You found out the drones are from the technicians, of course. Bringing the Invincibles from all the different universes over. And even screwing them over. And his whole purpose just to try to kill Invincible. Which, this is the belief that this is the one. Remember, I think Angstrom says in the second season that in every universe, Invincible is just as evil as his dad, but this is probably the only universe where Invincible is good. Now, there does become things in the future, which we saw, where Invincible got tired and gave it over to the Immortal, and the Immortal was a dictator and everything, and he just wanted to die. And he knew the only person that could kill him was Invincible, so he sent, what were the names? I got it in my papers, in my notes. He sent where was it? Oh yeah, Dropkick and Fight Master. That was in the first episode. Dropkick and Fight Master come from the future and tell him he got to do that and take him out. But let's get to the, like I said, the Invincible War was one thing you had to happen. Powerplex, a dude who seems so non-threatening, and all of his life is just tormented by the actions of Invincible, and then for him to fuck around and sacrifice his wife and son because he hated Invincible that much and blamed Invincible on that too, which is like, hey bro, this all on you. Don't put that on me. If Invincible like, hey man, look, I know what happened in Chicago. My bad. My dad was tripping. Didn't want your people to die. I literally tried to save him, bruh. I know I tried to save your sister and your niece. The fuck. But having Powerplex happen, like I said, having the Invincible War happen, but the arrival of Conquest. Shouts out to Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who voiced the shit out this role. And for Walking Dead fans, was like, does Glenn finally get his retribution on Negan for busting his shit in? And if you watched read the comics, you knew it was going to happen. But so much, I love the layers they added to Conquest in this, because Conquest literally is this nigga gets off on beating up on people. He told Mark, he's like, I want to thank you. Usually so many parameters, mission parameters, and there's so many people out not to kill, and I don't get to just let loose. Bro made a heart out of his blood bubble in space. That's when I was like, yo, when he pimp slapped the dog shit out of Oliver, I was like, oh my God. When he slapped Oliver and we knocked Oliver into a building and that bug's teeth fell out like chiclets, I was like, oh shit. You know, the show has you entrenched as an animated show. When you're watching it, and as you're watching it, you are literally having visceral and physical reactions. You're like, oh shit, you're jumping like you're watching a full action movie. When that man stretched Oliver like a pack of Twizzlers, I was like, oh my Jesus. I was like, he finna rip it. I forgot, and I'm glad I did forget, because it allowed me to enjoy it just pure in the moment. He about to strip the little, oh, he finna get the little grasshopper boy. He gonna rip him apart. But when they had Trump, that's now, if I'm not mistaken, this isn't in the comic, but Conquest trauma dumping, when he was like, I am so lonely. They all fear me. I'm a victim of my own success. The more they're scared of me. What? Then Mod said, Conquest, I'm not even giving a real name, just a purpose. So I want to thank you. Says all this to Mark, then tell him while he choking the shit out of him, take it to your grave. So what does that mean, ladies and gentlemen? That means that men would rather ravage and pillage and destroy planets and conquer civilizations than go to fucking therapy. That's what that means. I think, yes, if there was a Viltrum therapist that could talk, this man say he lonely and want to cry and would nobody care. Get that man some couch time, and I promise you, if Conquest would have been on the couch and he would have been able to talk about his feelings to a Viltrum who would have been like, I'm not going to beat you. I'm not going to eat you. Just talk. Look, you know what? We're not going to call you Conquest, okay? We're going to give you a real name. Your name Larry, okay? I'm Conquest. Larry, your name is Larry. That would have been all about. Call that man Larry. I don't think we had these problems. But to watch the devastation, I watched the devastation he posed with Mark, taking this Mark's face on the beach and just running through. Yo, that's another person that needs therapy. Invincible. Bro's face alone has been used to kill over 300 to 3,000 people. Just his face. He didn't have to open his eyes and watch as he go through people murdering them by both his father and now Conquest. If you got to fight another Viltrumite Mark, go take these niggas to the moon. Look, don't be like, oh, what if another one come? There's heroes. Take these motherfuckers, take them to Saturn. I don't think nobody's gonna miss Saturn, but to have that fight happen when Eve comes in And for her to die the exact panel way of the comics was great to see. And then to remember, oh yeah, because a lot of people said, so I remember reading this too when after Eve got her shit broken. They were like, well, can't Eve just heal herself? And I'm glad the way the writers did this because she can't naturally. She can't just be like, okay, cool. She can create everything around her. That's not a problem. She can create inanimate objects nonstop. And remember, she just can't create sentient matter. If you watch the Adam Eve special too, you see that. But she said it, unless something traumatic happens, then it takes the blocks off her to repair herself, to heal herself. So, again, I think if Eve goes to, say it with me, boys and girls, therapy, she might be able to do it. But to see the way Mark finally kills him as he thinks when he bashes his face in, only for Cecil to have this motherfucker underground and says he's under tungsten alloy steel and all this other shit. Bro, you said he's stronger than Nolan, and you saw Nolan stop an asteroid. What makes you think this is gonna hold him? Huh. Cecil never learns. But then he still wants Mark to trust him. Mark asks him to destroy the body, blah, blah, blah. Here's my biggest issue with all of that. The whole season. I don't give a fuck about the sequence anymore at the end. Can we move on from them? We know they're going to try to take over. They're going to get beat. All this. I would rather, in that case, just go to maybe the Flaxen War. And I know there's a whole other bunch of things that's got to happen. But I'm tired of the sequence, right? Battle Beast coming back, Battle Beast being saved out of space because he needed to be a part of that group with Alan, Nolan, them to be part of the coalition of planets to fight the Viltrumites. I'm waiting on that. But I was telling y'all earlier, there's something that is supposed to happen, and I'm not sure they're going to do it in full, but the way this show has been going, this is... So, Anissa comes back, okay? If you are unfamiliar with the comics, Anissa comes back. And Anissa now has an affinity for Mark, if you will. Mark ain't trying to rock with her. He like, yo, you just want to, conquer people. You want my planet to join the Viltrum Empire. I'm not about that life, blah, blah, blah. But she's like, nah, I want to, you're practically a Viltrumite. I want to procreate with you, even though that's part of her charge too. Mark like, nah, we good. I got my girl. My girl can make apples and flowers and shit. And she keep making the home vibrator when I'm not there. And I don't want her to have to feel like she got to keep making different size vibrators because now I don't feel invincible anymore. Anissa takes it from Mark. Like, takes it. Like, give me that. And she ends up getting pregnant by him, having a baby. And so I don't know if we're going to see that with as much as we've seen. Like, I don't know if that's the bridge too far. But that is something set to happen potentially. Eve eventually gets pregnant, has a kid by Mark. Again, Mark has one kid he was trying to make, another one he was forced to make. Oliver's going to grow up a little bit more. His suit's got to get a little bit bigger because now he got on them capri pants. He around here dressed like he finna go bike the Tour de France. So they got to change all that. There's so much more coming up. Even the fact that technicians will be involved. Angstrom Levy's still around. The Maulers do come back. There's so much in the comics, which if you want to read the comics and find out everything that happens, it's not a spoiler. It's a great read. It's a fun read. You will be into it for sure. But you will know what a lot of things are about to happen. And it kind of will hold you over until you get a new season. Like I said, I'm a fan. I've been saying this for several years now. Despite how some people may feel about the Marvel films or the TV shows, or even have DC films and TV shows, to all in all, if you're a comic book fan, if you grew up with comic books and shit like this, we are in a great age of everything right now with a plethora of choices. Now, granted, yeah, we hit this moment where there's these breaks, and so you're like, what am I gonna do to fill in the gaps? You kind of can just read. We really don't have a break right now. It's just, we have must-see TV with Daredevil Born Again, how you have to wait a week to watch an episode, which television used to be like that, y'all. I don't know if some of y'all remember that. I understand when Netflix was like, yo, we going to drop a whole season, and they created the binge model, people got used to it, but it's not what television was made for. Television was made to be what's called water cooler talk, where you watch it that evening, the next day you go to work around the water cooler and you're talking about it. It isn't, because the problem is if you watch a season all at once, there is a very, very, very rare chance you will rewatch that full season again within the next several days. You may wait until you're finally bored weeks and months from now. But if you're watching it one week and you got to wait till the next episode, then wait till the next episode. Now, I know some people are going to be like, well, I'll just wait till all the episodes air, then binge watch it. Then you're one of the rarities that will do that. But for the majority of the audience, it's allowed. Now people want to have that conversation. They want to be a part of that conversation when it happens. You know what I'm saying? So we're in a great age right now, in a great moment. I know it feels like to a lot of people it's oversaturated, and I don't think that it is. Because you can say the same thing about action films, about dramas, about rom-coms. There are so many of these different genres all abound, don't get me wrong. It's just that there is one right now that has garnered most of the attention. And it isn't just because, Marvel is doing blockbuster movies, multi-million-dollar blockbuster movies. DC is doing multi-million blockbuster movies. It's just this genre of film has garnered the most attention, so people are really rocking with it. So yeah, I think we're at a good point in time, but there is so much you can watch. Even if you're not a comic book fan, you can watch so much other stuff on TV, but I think you shouldn't knock anyone for the love of this. Now, again, did I enjoy this season? Absolutely. Am I excited for the next one? Absolutely. Are there some people who may not have liked it? Of course they are. They are allowed to. But please do not just dislike the show for disliking's sake. Do not just, I hated this only because everybody loved it. Those contrarians are not, you're not unique, you're not making a splash, you're not doing anything of the sorts, all right? But listen, that's my thoughts on the third season of Invincible. I've been talking for way too long. I want to know what your thoughts are in the comments below. As I say on every single video I do, please be civil. We are talking about a comic book TV show. Y'all can chill out. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and TikTok. I got to start uploading a lot of these stand-up clips to TikTok. I'm going to start cutting those soon. Mr. J Washington, M-R-J-A-Y. You should know how to spell Washington. If you want to send a super thanks for this video, please send a super thanks below. Make sure you like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, click on the notification bell. I'm going to try to drop more of these. I miss being on air regularly talking about shit like this, like I did with The Break Room, Collider, Nerdist, etc., etc. I am wondering if I did my own daily or weekly TV show, sort of similar to the Mad Titan podcast. If I did my own, where it's visual clips, pop-ups, whatever, things like that, right there, things like that, all that showing. Would you guys be interested in it? I need to know what y'all want, because I could create a lot of shit content-wise. I'm working on currently trying to create some wrestling content. I know a lot of people have asked me, would I go back on Before the Bell? And I said this on a live stream I did on the Blurge channel a couple of days ago. If the door was open and the opportunity presented itself, would I go back to Before the Bell? I'd honestly have to say yes. If things have been discussed, I would be willing to move forward and just make things grow, but that is solely not up to me. They are doing their thing, and if I was a betting man, they don't want me a part of it, and I can't knock them for that, but if the opportunity presented itself, I would be there. So I'm working on, until that happens, if that doesn't happen I'm working on developing some wrestling content for myself, for you guys, so you can have that. I want you guys to be able to enjoy that. Blurred in the Hood, please go subscribe to that channel. All those different things, man. I got so much we're working on, so much trying to make happen for y'all. Please, if you want to support, like I said, you know how to support. I will holler at y'all next time. Till then, I'm out. Thank you.